Voice of the Orange, Matt Park, joining us from out in California. So
he was a body double for.
Is that right?
How did the truth come out? How was Milli Vanilli exposed?
They were at a concert in the CD skip.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That'll happen.
And then their lawyer had to admit that the people that actually sing are not attractive like they are. That's why they did this. So.
Yeah. That's a bad break. That's a bad break for them. Indulge us, Matt.
They could still be like. Imagine if no one ever found out. They could still be making albums. That would be crazy. We'd all be.
How
duped.
old would they? They wouldn't look good anymore. I mean, that was a while ago. It was like 40 years ago, wasn't it? 30 years ago.
Let me ask you this. Let me blow your mind with this.
Yeah.
How do we know they didn't? If the Ugly People went on under a different brand and did something different, just never toured.
Oh, that's a good question. If the people that are actually Milli Vanilli are out making albums, that's a good question. I'll look that up while Steve asks you actual sports questions.
Did they let the dogs out? So they something like that, right? That's the same type of music.
Could be. Baja Men. Right?
I mean, they had good voices. They could sing.
They could.
I'll look into this.
Do you know what they look like? Yeah. Have you seen pictures of them?
Yeah, kind of like a Luther Vandross look.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. All right. All right. So, what's the weather like out there in California, Matt?
I'll let you know when I head outside. It's a high of low 60s, I think. It's supposed to be. So it looks sunny. You got the highway here, and but it's we've been cranking all morning here so far. I have not yet gotten outside, but I believe it's probably in the upper 50s at the moment. The thing that I just talked to Coach Brown. I should have kind of hit him with this, and I missed the opportunity. You're in a good neighborhood when the next 3 lots over are a Maserati dealership, a McLaren dealership, and a Mercedes dealership.
That's pretty good.
Those are the next 3 buildings.
That's in Steve's tax bracket.
Yeah, I wish. All right, I know you don't necessarily care much for betting lines and whatnot, but the line opened at 8.5, which we were like, oh, okay, that's kind of a lot. It continues to go up. It's at 9.5, 10 in places. Why do you think there is this wide point spread for this game, in your opinion?
I don't know. Travel west. I mean, Syracuse got physically whooped last time out. Cal's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cal's 1-4 in the conference, but as you know, those losses have largely been very tight. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But Cal's justifiably favored. It's tough to win on the road. Tough to come across country and win. But if people are digging like, oh, Vegas knows about some injury or that type of thing, I don't know what it would be. I mean, I think Coach Brown's been up front. A couple other guys have been lost on the defensive secondary. That alone, I don't think moves the line, but maybe it does. Mendoza can really throw it. Fernando Mendoza for Cal, and we'll see.
All right, so along those lines then, what stands out to you as you get ready to call this game about Cal? You mentioned that, they have 4 losses by a combined 9 points, and, the last 2 weeks in particular, their offense has come alive. They've put up, 90 points in these last 2 games. What stands out to you about the Bears?
I think they're probably playing their best of the season. They're getting people back healthy and playing. They've got more options, I think, in the passing game. Mendoza had 46 attempts last week against Wake Forest on the road. So I think they want to come out. I think these teams are pretty similar in their makeup and in the seasons they've had. So I think Cal wants to come out and sling it around. They do have 2 decent running backs. Syracuse has a good running back, and depending on game conditions, those guys may have their opportunities too. The biggest thing for Cal in terms of what sets them apart is they're so positive in the turnover margin. 17 interceptions alone, but they're nearly +2 per game in turnover margin. Syracuse is negative a third, 0.33. So that every 3 games, Syracuse is -1 in the turnover category, and so 9 games in, they're -3 for the year. Cal doesn't turn it over that much, and they've, in other words, their turnover margin, or their interception margin is 13. They've got 17 takeaways, and they've only thrown 4 picks. So that's to me the first thing that catches my eye.
On the flip side of that, I know that they're allowing a lot of sacks, right? They're among the 10 worst in that category in the country. Is Syracuse capable of taking advantage of that? And if that is a weakness for Cal, is Syracuse capable of taking advantage of it?
Well, I think a lot of what we're watching here is what does Syracuse's defensive front look like in this game? They played a lot of three-down front in the Boston College game. We're aware of some of the reasons there, obviously, with the attrition on the D-line and that type of thing, and they clearly got pushed around. What type of pass rush can you get from that? I think one of the arguments for maybe playing multiple fronts and three down and blitz from over here and bring the fourth guy from is to get pressure on the quarterback and not to show your hand as much. So huge game for Syracuse's top blitzers, Fadila Diggs and Marlo Wax. What do? Do they get to the quarterback? The stats show that Fernando Mendoza holds the ball a little longer maybe than other quarterbacks, and therefore the sack count is high. They've been sacked 30 times for the year, Syracuse 22, just to give you a comparison. So can you get to the QB that way? Can you force them off schedule? I think if you sack the quarterback, you're impacting the run game a little bit because you're creating long to go situations, second and long, third and long, if there's a sack in there. So that alone, I think, could make an impact, and I think it's an interesting part of the game to watch.
If they lose this game, they obviously, it would look like 7 wins is probably what they'll finish at, unless they pull off a major upset against Miami the last weekend of the season. And we've spent a lot of time over the course of the last several months talking about what would define success in year one under Fran Brown. Given the way it started, Matt, how important is this game for them to win so that, theoretically the end result is 8+ wins in year one?
Yeah, well, I think that's important. I think even absent a win, I think there's a lot of reasons to feel optimistic about the direction of the program. Certainly, the recruiting is better than it's been in an awfully long time. And so if that is the lone takeaway or residue of the season, then you're still in okay shape. You're better off than you were 12 months ago. That said, there's a big difference between 8 wins and 7, and certainly 8 wins than 6. And to get to 8, you're right, you got to win this one. And winning this one opens the door for feeling like it was a major improvement. It was a major step forward. It's time to get on board. Losing this one, getting to 7 wins, will feel a little hollow. Feel like a little bit of something left on the table.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's switch gears and let's talk some basketball here. Syracuse Youngstown State in the Dome just prior to the football game. We saw 2 games. We saw close victories. What do you? What questions do you have about this team that you're hoping will be answered tomorrow and beyond as they go down to New York?
Well, do they respond to? Clearly, the need is to get back on defense, if nothing else. I'm not surprised by it. But each time I do see the kind of social media coaches and all that, I'm just taken aback by the reaction of how prone it is to jumping off the ship at this point. Oh my God, fire everybody in the season. They're going to be terrible. Look, they've played 2 games. They've got as many wins as good teams have after 2 games. So let's start there. There's absolutely room for improvement. It doesn't look like domination to this point, but that can turn around and that can improve. So I just think the more they play together, the more they gel each time out should, and the more they figure out rotations and that type of thing and playing time, they should be a different and in theory tighter iteration of the team. The part that I think is non-negotiable is you got to be in the right spot defensively. You got to get back. You've got to rotate into position. And making free throws, of course, is another thing, which was a glaring aspect at the end of the Colgate game. So there's a couple things that I think are fixable. They're not, defense isn't easy. Defense isn't nobody goes out and thinks that's the most fun part of the game. But that's where it's going to take a little oomph, and I think the rest will come.
Do you have a strong feeling about tonight's announcement, Kyan Anthony? Do you assume he's coming to Syracuse? What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't assume it. I do have a pretty good feeling about it, but I think you don't really know until you actually see it. But I strongly is not the right word, but I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. And I guess along those lines, how important is it for Red and his staff and the future of the program? You know, they've already got Sadiq White coming to be able to couple him with Cayenne. I mean, how big of a deal would this be?
Okay. It's not, they don't put up banners for how you recruit. They put up banners when championships and tournament runs for how you play. So that's always more important. I always would rather see somebody on the floor, and let's worry about when they get here what type of player they are. That said, this is a huge one because it's very high profile. It stamps the program in a way that other recruits do not. This particular player arriving, Carmelo Anthony's son, Cayenne Anthony, arriving, it invigorates the whole program from a family standpoint. That's one of Adrian Autry's big selling points is this is a family. Once you play for the Orange, you're always Orange. You always have a home here. And for Melo to endorse that by bringing his son here and for Cayenne to say that's something I want to be a part of, to me, is a huge jumping off point to invigorate the alumni base. And obviously fans will go crazy. We always talk about this in recruiting. A lot of your listeners couldn't pick, and myself included, whoever, a lot of people, you couldn't pick Cayenne Anthony out of a lineup if you had to, right? But his being here, it understands, or it just demonstrates, I think, how important this all is to everybody and how it kind of ties together and gives everybody an excuse to buy in. It's a big positive stroke because of the high-profile nature of it, and you go from there.
Yeah.
But I think you'll see it. You'll see the reaction to it tonight. Will, I think, underscore that people will celebrate this like a very big deal, as they should.
Yeah, well said. All right, 3 o'clock kick tomorrow out there, Syracuse and Cal. Have a great call, Matt. Have a safe trip back, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Just to let you guys know, the Milli Vanilli people tried to create their own band called The Real Milli Vanilli. It did not go well. And
that wasn't a great idea.
Yeah, and they're all studio musicians now. So
okay,
none of them have gone on to success.
All right, thank you.
We couldn't come up with a better name than that.
Yeah, trust us this time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's branding 101. I mean, the name doesn't exactly conjure up great thoughts. They were trying to get another bite at it.
Yeah. All right, Matt, be well. Matt Park,
all right, guys, have fun.
joining us here on the show. And with that, we'll hit a timeout. We'll get to our pick segment next. Thad Brown, 1:30. Back after this.